What is up, good people of the world? Okay, so I have come up with a pretty cool idea. At least I think it is. Considering that my schedule is so busy, it's really difficult for me to do long, in-depth series consistently, and I know you guys want some more content from me, so what I've decided to do is do these 8 bars of little orchestral snippets. We're going to do lots of different various types of orchestral textures, and we're basically just going to build a simple little 8-bar texture, and I'm going to kind of walk through the balancing and how to get all the instruments to blend together well. And hopefully this can sort of expand your palette and at least, you know, not to necessarily put you in a box, but maybe serve as a catalyst for some of your own orchestration ideas. So the first, this first one that we're going to do is the very characteristic of, you know, John Williams sort of floaty, epic orchestral style. I've used this very similar. So this is basically going to be in 4/4. We're dealing with triplets here, so it feels kind of like 12/8. 1 2 2 3 2 4 4 4. So yeah. So the first thing I think we should do in this particular instance is go ahead and create our melody. Okay. So let me see if I can get my MIDI keyboard functioning properly. All right. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a melody on the violin line. I don't want to copy something else, but we don't necessarily need to be super original because my focus here is not on the melody, but on the texture. But in any case, we do want to sort of stay in this upper register, I would say above the stage, because we're going to go in octaves with the first and second violins. Let's see. Yeah, that works. I can go. Yeah, we'll just give it a nice little ending. And yes, the violins can definitely go that high and a lot higher. You should be wary, most definitely, of the ranges of instruments that you're writing for, but I would consult a textbook on orchestration, and they'll give you some good charts. I think Rimsky-Korsakov has a pretty good chart in terms of what's difficult, what's high school level, what's professional level. But generally speaking, you shouldn't necessarily trust Sibelius in particular to tell you what is out of range, because they can fairly easily play this, especially if it's at a slow tempo. By the way, our key is just going to be in F Lydian, and it kind of ends in A minor. Okay. So we're going to be at a fairly loud dynamic, I'd say forte. So we're going to put two bows per measure. So D D D D D D. Right. So we'll just bow these together. The bow button is or the slur button, which basically denotes bowing. Is S in Sibelius, in case you wanted to know. Now we're basically just going to copy and paste this phrase into octaves. Don't normally want to use, you wouldn't normally want to use copy and paste, but we're, just for our purposes here, we're going to use this. And now let's just go ahead and listen to it. There we go. Very, very, very nice. Okay, so before we do anything like doubling, the first thing that we want to do is fill in the rest of the textures. So I would first figure out what harmony we're gonna use here. So let's see. I'm just kind of going back and forth between F major 7 and G. Yeah, so we'll make it fairly simple. But the cool thing about this particular texture is that you generally use pizzicato cellos and basses in double octaves. Now you might say, well, this is a full texture, isn't it? So wouldn't pizzicato be too quiet? Now if you're talking about the upper stringed instruments, and I've talked about this before, if you're talking about the upper stringed instruments, you'd be correct, but the lower stringed instruments, their bodies being much larger than the violas and the violins, they have a very nice resonant pizzicato, especially the double bass, which is why, as I'm sure you know, plenty of jazz bands have, essentially double bass players just playing pizzicato, all the time, because they have a very ringing, nice, resonant, loud tone. So, and I kind of like using a nice little, and this is a good key for them, by the way, because this low F, if we transpose it down an octave, is going to be right at the low end of the contrabass, so it's going to be nice. And again, you start a pattern and then you kind of violate it on that fourth bar. I don't know if I've talked about that, but sometimes it's nice to treat ostinatos like this with a sort of a drum beat mentality, where you basically have it repeating for 3 bars and then it has a sort of variation or fill type of thing at the end. So... We'll see how well this works. And things are always subject to change once we listen to it. So pizzicato, we're going to put in forte dynamics, don't need to use any slurring, an octave lower, so let's listen to this. Alright, not bad, but I think what we're going to do is give a little bit more harmonic motion, maybe with a bass inversion, so that this phrase doesn't feel like it's sort of starting over. Like maybe we'll go to an inversion here, so... Okay, so we'll try this updated bass line and see how well it works. And I'm not a big fan of this A against this D. It is a perfect fourth, which some people wouldn't consider a dissonance, but in traditional counterpoint they consider it a dissonance. So. And plus, I think it'd be nice to have contrary motion in between these two lines, so I'm going to update that. Making it a little bit more interesting melodically. So a lot of you asked for the nitty-gritty, dirty behind-the-scenes process, so that's what I'm trying to give you here. This is literally how I orchestrate things. I like that a lot, actually. I'm going to listen to it one more time. I think I'm going to make this have the same motion as this, the first phrase, as the second phrase, in order to make it easier to understand. Here, I should probably zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing more clearly. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Okay, so now we have our bass line and we have our main melody. We can start adding harmonic color. So one particular rhythmic and harmonic activator that I really like to do in the brass instruments, specifically the horns. You've probably heard me use this rhythm a lot. It was kind of pioneered by John Williams in his score for E.T. It's so we're going to go ahead and do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is basically just enter in these triplets to make it easier for me to record it. So there we go, and now I'm just going to use the re-input pitch function to make it easier. But I'm going to go ahead and put these in all the way through the end, add staccato notes, and then play them in. Let's see here, make sure I get this right. Notice how I'm avoiding parallel fifths in the bass. This right here is an interesting quandary, because I think I'm going to just omit the fifth of the chord right here to avoid those parallel fifths, and then add the fifth in up here, so that that the third and fourth horn are going to double the tonic down there. So now all I have to do is select this, and I'm probably going to put them at mezzo forte, because, you know, they're brass instruments and they're accompanimental. So we'll see how that sounds. So I'm going to use the explode function here, because we love to blow things up. This is just a much easier way than extrapolating all the individual parts. So horn 1, horn 2, horn 3, and horn 4. Now, there's going to be a little weirdness down here. Yeah, it's probably not going to... There you go, yeah, see? It's not going to double the correct note, but there we go, that should sound correct. So let's just listen to this by itself and make sure it sounds correct. Yeah, and I think instead of just going lum bum ba ba bum bum bum, I'm gonna go dum dum da da dum bum ba dum, and just give it a little bit better voice leading. You always want to think about how the individual parts sound. So listen to this. Hear how much better that sounds for that horn player, that second horn player. Rum bum ba ba bum bum ba bum. All right, so now let's hear how all of this sounds together. Alright, it sounds pretty good. We definitely don't want to lower the horn's dynamics any lower, especially with this high C, because it's going to be difficult for them to play these higher notes. So I think what we're going to do is do a little bit more doubling in terms of these stringed instruments. So one particular instrument, especially above the staff, that just blends immaculately with the violins is the flute here. And I'm just going to move this last phrase. I might actually double it at the piccolo, but we'll hear how it sounds by itself. Alright, not bad. Okay, so of course the texture still sounds pretty thin. So what we're going to do is first off fill up the piano and harp with nice arpeggios. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter these sextuplets here and just do them for the whole thing, and that'll make it easier. Excuse me. I was doing the wrong harmony there. Actually, I don't have to worry about parallel fifths when we're on this sort of thing here. So let's see. I want to keep it having it move up, but let's see. There we go, nice little melody there. And of course we will take this and put it up on the higher register. Just to let you know, if you were notating this for real players, you wouldn't want to have all these sextuplet brackets. You'd basically just right click and do hide or show and then hide it, like you would have in the extra score. But of course, you know, we're writing for samples at the moment, so we're not necessarily going to worry about that. So let's hear this. Dynamic level, that's kind of important. I think I'm actually going to move the whole thing up an octave higher. I can't believe I'm saying this, but because we have that nice low bass and it's interfering a little bit with the pizzicato, so I'm going to move that whole thing up an octave. And I'm just going to go ahead and put slurs on these so they'll pedal it properly. You wouldn't do this in real life, it's just to get the sound set to sound properly, because in real life the harpist would let all notes ring. Oh, sorry, let me think about this here. Yeah, because 2 harmonic changes per register. Anyway, but as I was saying, the... oh, and by the way, sorry I'm speaking so quietly. It's because it's late at night, as you can see. I'm trying to not wake anyone up. But, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the harpist is always going to let their notes ring out if it's unnotated. You have to notate when you want them to stop the note, which is sort of the opposite of the piano, where you would détaché or detached is what they would assume if they didn't see any articulation, and then you would have to write in pedal if you want. So this slur is just for the purpose of getting it to sound correctly. Okay, so anyway, let's see how that sounds. Yeah, still pretty quiet, but actually I think it probably has to do with the fact that the harp is panned very far to the the right, I believe. Yes, yes. And I only have my left monitor on in order to move the this actual computer monitor on. So let's try this. There you go, that's better. All right, now I'm probably going to double this with the piano. Not always a good idea to double the harp with the piano. If you have chromatic stuff in the piano, because, you know, like I've discussed in some of my other videos, the harp is a non-chromatic instrument. It is a diatonic pedal instrument with 7 pedals, and it can't play sort of like the timpani. They have to tune their notes to new notes if you want to employ new notes of the chromatic scale. So because we have no chromaticism here, we can do this. You know what, I think the piano is a little too abrasive, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down an octave lower and let the piano just play for that very last counter line. So we'll see how this sounds. We'll start out here. And I'll have them start at mezzo piano, and then sort of crescendo up to this forte right here. So they're not so abrasive. They smoothly flow. The pianist, that is. There we go. That sounds nice. Okay, so one thing we can do is I'm gonna do viola stuff here. And normally I wouldn't divisi the violas in this sort of texture because they're probably the most quiet string section, and it's not always a good idea to divisi them, but I'm already planning to have them blended with clarinets in sort of the same register, doing the same thing. So in order for them to homogeneously blend better, I would rather have the B-flat clarinets and the violas both play two different individual parts rather than having the violas on one and the clarinets on another, if that makes any sense. Because if they're on two separate parts, you can hear the clarinet and viola more distinctively, whereas if one clarinet is doubling half the violas and the other clarinet is doubling the other half of the violas, it's going to have a more homogeneous sound. Hope that makes sense. Okay. So let's see, just do. Again, we don't want to make it necessarily more complicated contrapuntally because we don't want to distract from the melody. We just want to give a nice little. Oops, forgot to copy this over. There we go. All right, now we'll do this. Go up to that major seventh there. It is okay that there is some voice crossing in the second violins. Actually, wait, no, I don't. Yeah, right at that. At this moment right here, this D goes above that C. I think that's an E actually. Sorry, I hate reading alto clef. But that's not a big deal because of the fact that this melody is being doubled an octave higher. It might be fun to double this last little bit of the line here. Let's see how well that works. That's a little high for them, but it's not too bad. So I think it'll be a cool little thing there. Okay, so let's try this out by themselves. Hopefully it should thicken up the texture here, and then we'll double with the clarinets. There we go. Starting to sound a lot better. Definitely these violas add a lot to thicken up the texture here. And again, you'd want to write divisi in order to imply that they shouldn't play double stops. I mean, competent players would look at it and be like, oh, duh, it's supposed to be divisi, and they wouldn't play this double stops, but it's important. Just to clarify there, in case you didn't know, a double stop is when a single string player plays two notes on the same violin. So for example, you could play a double stop or triple stop, which is three notes. Let's say you play the open fifth on the violin, which is tuned G, D, A, E. So you play those first two notes, G and D, together at the same time, you get a chord. Just a two-note chord, but you still get a chord. That's called a double stop. Whereas a divisi implies that the entire string section is split up into two parts. Say you have 12 violas or 10 violas, 5 will play one part and 5 will play the other part. So you do lose volume, but you get more contrapuntal fidelity. So you want to write divisi and then unison when they go back together. But again, since we're not writing for live players at the moment, we're not going to worry about those little details. Let's see here. And this register in the lower end of the clarinets, I really like. It has a really nice warm, resonant sound, and it avoids that B-flat break middle area. Okay, so this is where an orchestrator has to be wise. Okay, so boom, beam, boom, beam, boom, beam. Making that consistent sixth jump would be awkward on a clarinet or on any wind instrument. It would not be idiomatic. Whereas a string instrument can just switch from one string to the other, and it's not necessarily that difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually put the clarinets on two staves just to make it easier to read. So I'm going to go ahead and add another clarinet stave here. So we're not adding another clarinet. We're just, again, we're splitting them onto separate staves. We'll go ahead and do our wonderful explode feature. Mwahaha. To, let's see, the clarinets 1 and clarinets 2. Yeah, I would name them 1 and 2, but just for the sake of time here. Okay. So you can see this note is in common in between the two, so I'm basically just going to have one section hold the note. So I'll show you what I'm going to do here. And we'll give them a little bit of what the horns are doing there, because it makes a nice melody. Alright, so let's try them all out together here. Alright, now that we have so much stuff going on, the melody is being lost a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and double it on the oboes an octave lower. Remember, we don't want to have them in unison with the flutes or with themselves, but I think an octave lower they would sound really nice. That sounds really nice, and of course they can't play this C here. We could just have them go up here, but they're going to overpower this flute note. It's not necessarily a huge thing, but I think it sounds a bit awkward for them to go do 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 do. Actually, I think I'm just going to leave them at this A here. I think that'll work. I think that'll work in our favor. Alright, so now the only really other issue that we have to deal with is a bit of color percussion and filling in this empty melodic space here. So we could do like a trombone line maybe. I'm thinking, I'm just running through different options in my head here. We'll try this. It may be a little awkward, but I'm hearing something in my head here. La da 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 dum. This may be awkward, but well, we'll try it. Try this here. That's a little awkward. Probably double them at that root there. Yeah, that sounds better. And I will double this in the trombones an octave lower. Like I said, works really well. I don't know, I kind of want that full chord there. Oh, of course, we can just have them up there. There we go, that works, okay. Let's hear this by itself. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's just hear this transition by itself, and then we can add some color percussion. Ah, there we go. That sounds nice and smooth. Okay, and I think a cool thing maybe for this second section, we're sort of building up here. So I'm going to go ahead and add bassoons on this staccato. And again, these jumps are a little awkward, so we're going to do a fun little thing here, and we're going to have contrabassoon, which can be really meaty there, because they can play those first notes. Let's see here. There we go. So we'll hear them work together very nicely. Actually, we could move all this down an octave below, and I think it would sound better, be more resonant. Yeah, that'll work. That'll be a nice, delicious meat. And we'll add the piccolo in this last measure, because they can go up to this high note and not be like screaming. So we'll leave them there. So now we have almost everyone doing something. So let's just go ahead and listen to it, and then we'll add some color percussion. I'm going to try Glock here for this in-between run. It might be a little cheesy, so we'll play by ear quite literally and see whether or not it works. It may not, but you always try things. You know what? I like it for this style. And we can do a fun little crotale thing here. Yeah, that would be cool. No, not that. I can sort of arpeggiate this. Let's try that in context. Alright, I'm not sure if I want snare. Snare might be overdoing it, but it may not be overdoing it if it's quiet. So, yeah. And again, this texture is very typical of me. If I was trying to write something that was more original in comparison to things that I do all the time, I wouldn't necessarily go with this 12/8 texture, because I do use it a lot. But I figured I'd start with the most common ones that I use and sort of branch out from there and get to more unique textures. So let's see, dump da 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 dump bum ba dump da da bum ba 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 ba. Another common snare beat that I use. Dump da 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 dun 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 dun. Nice little accent there. Let's try mezzo piano. See how that works. I actually should go to panorama view. I have no idea why I'm not in panorama view. That would be so much easier here. Okay, so I'm hearing two things. Dee dee dum 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 ba ba boom, sort of a bass drum here, and then ba da 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 do do dum, and I hear the dee da 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 boom bum. You know, timpani 1 2 3. I'm sure about this first inversion chord. We'll try it. We'll try it. Well, we will try it. Just a little accent there. And I think maybe a suspended cymbal. Can I give it a nice little thing here? Oopsies. We'll let that ring out for full measures. Again, if you're writing for a real cymbal player, you just write let ring out, and you'd turn this tie to be a vertical tie, and you'd shorten it like this, and that would imply let ring. But you know, in this case, we're not going to worry about that. We need to actually lengthen it to make note for note performer to play it properly. We'll start them at pianissimo, just because we want them to be as subtle as possible when they come up. We might as well do this one. D, do, do, do. Once again, my camera ran out of space, and I need to invest in a better memory card. But anyway, I was saying that tuba may increase the resonance for this last little section. But I think for this inversion right here, we should save it for the end, for the last little push. Yeah, so... You know, actually, we could transition these lower instruments into arco. That is bowed, little staccato bow, and then for the last, bow it. We'll try that. Yeah, that's better. Actually, that should be there, and this should be down on suspended cymbal. Forget about that. I think we'll leave this to line up with that bass drum there again. And we'll probably add a little wind run at the end. Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah, we'll just do a typical one. You know, again, this isn't necessarily the most original music, but I'm just trying to demonstrate a texture that I think works well. So adding a little wind run there. I might simplify this Glock here. Sometimes it's nice to simplify the Glock because it gets a little too muddy because it resonates so well. Yeah, there we go. Alright, I think I'm satisfied, honestly. Let's try this out here from the very beginning. And I'll play it with stereo audio for you guys. I like it, but the Glock wears out its welcome after its first entrance. So I think I'm just going to leave that up to the brass. And I think I'm going to use suspended cymbal in combination with a crash cymbal. I think that'll be a good, wise policy here. You know what might be nice? Because these horns sound a little bit thin up there in this second section. I wonder if we could we might have fun here. Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna bring these down to the bones, and I'm gonna bring this an octave lower, and I'm gonna just poop it over here for a second and bring these dudes up over here. And then bring this guy down here. So I'm essentially just inverting what they're doing. And I'm just killing that third, because that third of the chord would have been too low down there, and leaving the fifth there. Okay, so let's listen just to the brass instruments by themselves. I'm basically filling in the fifth, by the way. That's what I'm doing right now, because remember how we took the fifth out to avoid the parallel fifths in the horns? Well, it's not going to create parallel fifths in the trombones, so we can have the fifth in there. Okay. Technically, that would be a direct fifth, but who cares about that? That's just getting pedantic. Okay, so let's try this out. Aha! Mwah! Aha! Mwah. Oh yeah, that is nice and juicy. All right, so sorry if I wasn't super talkative. It's one of the reasons why for defending our home one, I didn't necessarily want to go in behind the scenes, because it's really difficult to talk about what I'm doing while I'm doing it, because it's such an internal process. But I think I explained all of that well. In any case, let's just do a quick little recap. Okay, so the first thing we did was come up with our little melody on the first and second violins, etc., as you all know. And then we came up with our bass line on pizzicato bass, which we decided to change to arco for the second half because it builds. And then slurred at the very end, while still leaving the bassoon at staccato to give a definition. So we divided up this bass line for the second half between the contrabassoon and the bassoon. I'll post the score to this, by the way, so you can look at it in detail. Clarinets, we've given the same thing that we gave in the violas, which is this little rhythmic activator here, which is really helps to thicken up the texture. We have this simple little harp arpeggio, also serves to thicken up the texture, which is double with the piano at the end. A nice little thing. We added a couple of counter-melodies. The first one is this trumpet and trombone, because remember they double each other really well in the octave. And then the horns, which play this rhythmic activator, bum bum ba-da-dum bum, are doubled by the trombones. Remember we revoiced them a little bit, but they're doubled by the bones for the second half, because remember we're building texture here. Tuba for a nice little touch at the end. Then timpani and some simple percussion strikes. Flutes and oboes are doubling the melody, and the piccolo comes in for the last one, and then they have this nice little wind run. Yeah, I think that's it. It's a fairly simple texture, and I think that's probably a good way to orchestrate, at least for me, is to start out with whatever idea is most important, and then just work from there. Start out with the melody. Okay, great. Now I need a bass line. Great, write the bass line. Now I need chord progression. Great, add horns. Okay, it still sounds thin. Okay, fine, thicken it up with violas. Okay, and then once you start adding more parts, then other parts become weaker, and then you have to double them, and then once everything balances, then you add counter-melodies, and then pretty soon you have this nice 2D section where everything balances fairly well, yeah, so there you have it. So I hope you got something out of this video. It's a little bit different in format from my previous Let's Write Music series, and I'm not killing my Let's Write Music series. I'm still going to get around to doing that episode 2, but I figured these little 8-bar snippets will give you something in the meantime to latch onto. If you have any questions about any aspect of this that I didn't mention in the video, let me know. So yeah, I'll see you guys later.